Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. Teams are in for round two. Myself and Rob Sutherland are here to talk all about it. Rob, you've been pretty happy today. Lots of sarcasm floating around the office, which tells me that you're in a pretty good mood.
Well, let me tell the viewers something special. For every like that the post gets on Facebook, Tom's going to bring his zip down a centimetre. And let me tell you guys, you want to see that.
Plenty of chest hair underneath here, that's for sure.
Not much else?
Not much else, that's true. How'd your team go, Rob?
I beat you, Tommy. That's why I'm chirpy. Oh, right.
That's kind of what I was suggesting, and you were meant to say, oh, yeah, I went really well. But
I'll be honest, when I saw my team and I saw your team, I was expecting that would be the way it went. So, there was no shock, there was no surprise. I just knew it was going to happen.
I mean, to be honest, you basically picked the captain, Tommy Turbo, well done, and a couple of good reserves, and that was the difference in round one, really. If you nailed those two things, then you did pretty well. I'm really happy with my team, but I did not nail the captain. Tedesco was pretty poor and didn't nail those last sort of two or three reserves. But I'm happy with my team and no trades this week.
No trades for me too, Thomas. I'm a new guy. I'm going to be conserving trades in 2023.
Let's chat on that next week and see whether you actually followed through with that.
Well, not every week, but the first week. I think it's the first time in years that I haven't traded in the first week. Very happy.
Let's run through the winners and losers really quickly. First up, Latrell Mitchell is on the winners list. Reason for that, of course, is that he sent a bit of a scare through Rabbitohs camp when he went down with that knee injury over the weekend. But he played through. I actually thought he played better in the second half when he was so-called injured. He sat out training today, but it looks like he will play. So good news on Latrell. He's been named.
Is the PCL the one that Andrew Fafita played without, or was that MCL?
He played without an ACL.
No, it wasn't ACL. You can't play. You can't you've got no stability without the ACL. I'm sure it was the PCL or the MCL.
Do it all the time. I know that, but let's look it up. I think it is an ACL.
All right. Should we have a bet? We'll look it up while we're doing like a thing, and if it's the PCL, you have to bring it down 2 inches, and if it's the MCL, I'll go a couple of buttons.
Well, someone can just tell us on the comments here.
Okay. All right. This is exciting. I reckon we keep doing this, right? A or B for a button or a zip. This could be a whole different sort of show.
I'm particularly into this, but it's, as I said, you were very chirpy today.
Let's keep rolling.
I don't know where it's going to, where we're going to finish with this. Losers from the teams, Cameron Munster, pretty obvious. 2 to 4 weeks for him, so he is a sell. It was a pretty gruesome injury, to be honest.
I was amazed he came back, and then to watch him keep tackling with one hand. He was just sort of trying to get his body in front of guys and hope that someone would come and finish the job. And even at half time, he came back onto the field, and before they started, someone threw the ball to him. And you could see him trying to catch it with one hand, like, please don't throw the ball at me. He did really well.
It was a brave performance.
Very brave.
But look, if it's 2 weeks, he's out. At this time of the season, with 46 trades, he's a definite sell, and we'll get on to the best buys to replace him with later on. On the losers list, I've got Tom Trbojevic. The only reason for that is that he's on the buy this week. Other than that, it was great to see Tommy Turbo back. 97 points. If you captained him like Rob did, and 2.7% of people also did, then you're flying. He was one of the better captain choices of the weekend. What are your thoughts?
Well, he did all that clearly far from 100%. I think it was the second half. He stuck his nose through in a line break about 20 metres out from his own try line. And he did not accelerate whatsoever. He just loped along. And I mean, Addo Carr had turned and was chasing him. Maybe he wouldn't have got away anyway, but Tommy, at full fitness, would have put the Jets on, and he didn't even try, which I understand, right? He was just trying to get through the game and then have the bye. I thought he was great.
A lot of people hitting us up in the comments saying PCL,
which is
but
what
I never agreed.
So
I never agreed to the bet.
I think it was 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 buttons. Yeah. Down we go, Tommy.
No, it's not happening. I never agreed to the bet. It was your idea, and there was never a yes from my end.
How about we get people to comment saying, did you agree to the vote? They might have heard it differently from you.
I never agreed. Never said yes. But looks
Do we
like
have to talk SuperCoach?
Looks like it was a PCL, but who really cares? Who's got a sell on Khan? So that's Khan Pereira. 5 points?
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, but
not a sell.
He was never a base stat guy. Yeah. Like in the preseason, we saw that in the stats that came through. He basically scored all his points in tries and points associated to the tries, like line breaks, tackle busts. He needs tries. and he will get tries, I think. Probably happens against the Dragons this weekend.
The perfect segue, isn't it? If he needs tries, he's got a great opposition. I mean, the only better opposition would be the Roosters. God, that's terrible. Terrible. But yeah, look, you got to think he's a chance to score against the Dragons. And you don't have to sell this week. I mean, why would you sell? It's not going to cost you any money. Wait a week, see if he scores.
Travis says, get your tits out, Tommy. Fair enough. Pull that zip down, champ. There's a lot.
There'll be no talk about SuperCoach. Oh, excellent.
It's not too much.
It's a start. It's a start.
I was feeling a bit stiff. What have we got here? Who's Cardi Party? A lot of questions about the Cardi Party.
He was good. He was really good. But I should have looked his numbers up before we came on air. If I was a professional, I would have. But I reckon it was close to 20, wasn't it?
It was 19 runs.
There you go.
And so what I liked about it is that he was playing as a forward. He was playing as a proper back rower, not like in his early days where he would just have license to throw offloads and do whatever he wanted and was thinking pass more than run. He was definitely thinking, I'm a tough forward, and he played like a tough player. And that's what I liked.
To be fair, I think he's done that at least the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, definitely really. Since he moved to the Eels, he's been doing that, but he hasn't played 80-minute games while doing it.
Yeah.
The difference was that this was a full 80-minute game up against a really good opposition. The problem is that they've got so many guys coming back into that team with Lane and Madison. I don't know how long it's going to continue for.
Oh, look, I don't think he stays as a starter for long, but I think it moves him ahead of Dury after that game. And that's a win because Madison's back in four and round 4, and then Lane 6 to 8. We're not sure, but whoever's the starter is going to get at least a couple of decent price rises there.
Look, I think you don't get on him this week. Wait until next week and see what's going on, but definitely on my watch list. Speaking of, let's run through the best buys. I think Jackson Ford is the best buy this week, and I own him already. He's only owned by 14%, so he's still in the relative pod range for a cheapie. Looked pretty impressive, lots of tackle busts. There was a line break in there. Work rate was pretty good as well, with 12 runs at 280k, and at that ownership, I was expecting him to be number 1 on the most purchased list this week. He's currently 9th.
Well, I thought the defensive work rate was really good. My one... no, it's not criticism. My one caveat here is the Warriors bench minutes were all over the shop. Like Josh Curran played, I don't know, like 20 or something. Tom Ale played less than that. I just don't think that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the season. And that's my one slight query on Tohu Harris as well. We may get to later that people are jumping in because he scored 70-odd in base. But I can't get around how that Warriors bench rotation works. So I want to see it another week and see if it stays that way, and then maybe I've got a little more confidence.
The other thing that I noticed in the teams after I wrote this down was that Bailey Sirenen is on the extended bench. So that could cause a little bit of drama there. But I do think that Ford has overtaken Curran in the pecking order, with Curran only playing those 19 minutes. I think it looks like Ford is ahead.
I agree, but I'm not saying Jackson Ford is not a good player. I got him in my team, and for all the reasons that I really liked him in the trial, and he was named. But Curran's a better player than that. There must be a niggle or something happening. I don't know.
Look, who knows? In any case, I wouldn't be too worried about bringing in Jackson Ford this week.
Yeah.
I'd still be going for it. Ideally, you wait until next week. But
I would wait.
Probably, even with your trade boost next week, you probably want to make more than 4 trades next week. So you can jump the gun this week on someone like Ford. Adam Dewey was sensational on the weekend, and what I loved is that he stuffs every single stats department. Here he is scoring a try and with a line break, a couple of tackle busts there as well.
Some lacklustre tackle attempts, wasn't it?
But the kicking game was there. Heaps of forced dropouts. Every single stat department was full. And that's what Dewey does. He just covers so many different things on our stat sheet.
Yeah, look, he's an absolute gun. He averaged 72 points as a starting 5'8" last year. And as I said, I thought he was going to do better this year. I think this is where he is. And I think he could stay there all year, in that sort of 80 to 90 range. And I think he's the best buy easily because he did exactly what we expected him to do.
Yeah, he is really popular. Obviously, people selling Munster, I think, should be going to Dewey.
And Matt Burton, who's underwhelming.
And Burton too, who could be sold. But the other guy people are going to is Kalen Ponga. Now, he's about 100k cheaper than Dewey, so there's appeal there. Had some really classy touches with those 2 try assists. What I liked was that he was really committed in defence and pulled off a lot of big hits. He was committed in scrambling, and that's why he got hit in the head and got taken off for that concussion, because he just wanted the ball so badly. And when Kalen Ponga wants the ball so badly and obviously wants a win so badly, he's probably not a bad purchase. I've got Dewey ahead, but Ponga at 100k cheaper is not a bad purchase either.
I thought Ponga was really good, and I had bagged Ponga in the pre-season and suggested people were crazy for getting him, but he looked great. I do think the problem is that where he's chasing tackles and trying to show that he can defend up in the line. I mean, that's not what you want him doing, is it? Like
he's one.
It's a recipe for disaster.
A long spell on the sidelines,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Moving on to Tohu Harris, I really want him in my team. 80 minutes for 88 points, base stats galore. Also a lot of ball playing in there too. He took a lot of runs, but he was also doing ball playing and got a line break assist in there. I thought he was really good. So he's a guy that I want to get in at 640 odd K, which I think is unders for him based on the fact that he was eased back last year from that ACL injury.
Correct. Outstanding. My only query is, as I've addressed, is that Warriors bench in the minutes. It just seems weird to me, so I want to see it. Maybe even for 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I'm not saying, like, at 640k, his price isn't going to move that far, even if he cracks out another couple of 85s. So I think he's a watch.
Christian Welsh is a guy who I own. I think you own him as well.
Yep.
Pretty happy with the purchase, to be honest. The minutes were good. The offload was there. I know that the minutes were all over the place at the Storm, given the concussions and the injuries, etc. But I think Welsh actually played what he will continue to play for the rest of the year, which is around 60 minutes, 57 minutes.
He was really good, and every hit up, or almost every hit up, you could see him turning and trying to get that arm to pop away, an offload. He's underrated as one of the better offloading forwards in rugby league, so I think he's a dead set own at 460.
And we'll just go through these guys really quickly, but Jermaine Hopgood, you have to get in. He could even be a captaincy choice, a Corey Parker like captaincy choice without the goal kicking.
Let's see another couple of weeks yet before you jump on.
With 101 points basically in pure base.
Sure.
It could end up being a really boring year where everyone just locks the C on him. Charles Nickel-Clockstad, Isaiah Katoa, William Warbrick, Utakamanu, Taruva, Paul Alamotti. I've got all those guys locked in as basically must-haves. So we don't want to talk about them too much, but do you disagree on any of those?
Don't on any of them. I'm just going to throw in Warbrick, I think, is a start this week. I think he could score a try. And Stefanos had people in the blog sort of, critiquing his low score. I think it's 38. He played 50 minutes. He keeps playing 50 minutes in the middle when it's not 34 degrees. He's going to score better.
On to the watch list. And now this is probably the more interesting list that we've got, because there are a lot of guys I have on here who are really popular this week who I'm not going for. I'm not sure what your opinion is, but Jermaine Asako and Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow were sensational for the Dolphins, but you don't go chasing last week's points. That's one of the number one rules in SuperCoach. I need to see it again. Was this a flash in the pan for the Dolphins? Probably. Will they, there are so many questions here.
The Dolphins were very good, I have to acknowledge. As a Roosters fan, you walk a tightrope here. If you don't acknowledge the greatness of your opposition. They were very good. The game flow went their way. The Roosters were terrible, just dropped the ball, couldn't complete sets. So the outside backs of the Dolphins got a lot of ball. They're not going to get that much ball in most games. They're not going to score 28 points all the time. If I'm going to pick one of them, I pick Asako because he's a goal kicker. But yeah, Asako scored 156 as a fullback who was kicking goals two years ago. Came out the next 5 weeks, had like a 50-point average. He'd be lucky to do that, I think, week in, week out. At 380k, his price is going to move up, but it's not going to go out that far, and this 100 rolls out of his average in 2 weeks' time. All those things have me as a watch at best. Yeah,
both of those guys are watches for me, and I certainly don't think that Asako should be the most purchased player this week, and I think Hammer's the third most purchased. So both of those guys definitely have a look this week.
Chasing points.
The same goes for Josh King. Now, he was sensational on the weekend, 1 million tackles, 96 points. But the issue I've got is he played 80 minutes. And look, that's the try assist there.
Man, that was Harry Grant. You should have a try contribution for that.
I think he did get a TC for that.
No, you got the try assist for that one. Harry Grant should have got the try assist.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think Harry Grant got the try contribution. He doesn't get the assist for that.
He should. He was the one who did all the work.
No.
Yes.
No,
look, I am not biased at all as a Harry Grant.
Oh, please. But King played 80 minutes. He's never played 80 minutes before in his life. And the reason that he played 80 minutes probably was the fact that they had so many injuries and concussions.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening in the future. I see him playing 60 minutes. He averaged 53 minutes last year. So I don't see massive improvement from King. I want to see him back it up this week. He's the 5th most purchased player, but I really want to see more.
Yeah, this has... it was Luke Thompson last year who came out in round 1, played an inflated number of minutes, scored like 64 in base, and people got really excited and hopped on, and it never quite came, because as soon as the minutes dropped, so did the score, and so on and so forth. That said, Josh King could be the mid-range 2RF that we all slept on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone went sort of Butcher and Wilton and Eli Katoa and Liero, who I think are both good buys, by the way. We'll get to them later on. But, yeah, he could be the pick of the bunch. Josh King. Braden Williami, you own. Looked pretty good. I mean, that try assist was a pretty classy touch. Work rate was okay with 13 runs. Dual position. I don't own him, but he's a guy I've definitely got on my radar for next week. Yeah,
eye test was good, and I think that 2RF centre wing dual is going to be super handy in trades later on in the season, so happy to have him.
What are your thoughts on Davey Moale and Shaq Mitchell? Both played big minutes with the injuries. Well, they went into the game with a whole bunch of injuries, plus there were 2 within the game, with Totola going down early, and then Arrow went down really early as well when he came in off the bench. So inflated minutes for both, but they're so depleted this week that I think Moale and Shaq played big minutes again.
Yeah, I'm sort of calling them like a mini trap here, in that people are just going to look at the stats and they're going to see round 1 minutes up, and then they're going to see round 2 minutes still pretty up, and they're going to go, hey, these guys are playing big minutes. That's where they are. They're going to lock him in. Then Sele is going to come into the team, and one of their minutes is going to drop back, and the other one's probably going to drop back a little less, but they're 30-minute guys. They're not 40 plus minute guys, and I think they're minor traps.
Yeah, Jacob Host is due back in round 3 as well, alongside Sele. And look, I'm not sure if he is in their top 17, but it's certainly a thing to take into consideration. Plus, they got a whole bunch of indefinites as well, like Liam Knight and
Tatoli, I think, comes back next week.
Tatoli will be back next week. Yeah, Tatoli not named this week. Yeah. Sonny Luke was interesting. So only 25 minutes, but the Panthers looked like a completely different team when he was on the field. 59 points in those 25 minutes, so he stacked a lot in there.
Yeah.
Again, he's on the watch list. I want to see what he does this week, because there's a big chance that he goes from 25 minutes up to somewhere like 40, and then eventually I think he'll be playing the major share more than Kenny, maybe a 50-30 split.
Well, if that's the case, when the Panthers were struggling to make an impact, why wouldn't Ivan do it earlier? I don't know, man. Like, for me, watch at best. Definite watch, because 59 points, he got a try and a line break, and he looked good, but that's because he was direct, and he was... I don't know. We'll have to have a talk about this one on Thursday when we've got a Panthers expert on.
Let's get to some questions, guys. Mark is asking, how does Grant go with no Munster? Probably better. He probably takes on more responsibility, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, it's Jarome Hughes who will go even better without Munster. He'll just dominate the field on both sides. But I don't think he goes better or worse. I still think he's a 70, 75 guy.
Got a sledge from Jack saying, nice phone case, Rob. Both sets of my grandparents have exactly the same one.
It's very practical. You can get your 3 cards here. Because I see people pay by tapping with their phone, and I haven't mastered that yet.
Yeah.
And then I've got my Medicare card, which is very useful, and my library card here. See?
Well, there you go. Hopefully we can.
God, that was a zoom
you went for the 4 Pine sponsorship last week, and now you're going for.
Well, I've already bought this, and I won't be buying 4 Pines anymore. Oh, I'm right off their product. Oh, it's not very good at all. Pirate Lager. That's a beer I can get around. Let's get very nice. In the office. I think we're at Holt Street in Surrey Hills, if anyone would ever like to send it.
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2. Care of.
Thoughts on selling Franklin Pele? It's crossed my mind. I thought with all the injuries, they had to get a dispensation to get Jack Tanner onto the bench. So you would think that Pele plays decent minutes in that team. It didn't happen. 8 minutes.
Yeah, I don't understand why 8 minutes. This is one of those why go off one round? Or you never know what happened or why the coach, they didn't pick Pele to play 8 minutes. Something happened in their rotation or in the playing group that they had to make a different interchange. So just wait and see.
Let's move on to the hold list. I've got Brandon Smith as a hold. He got absolutely belted by Kafusi.
Illegal ribs, I think it was.
Illegal. His ribs went into a different postcode. I don't know what he was doing. Like, he was trying to pass the ball as he was getting hit. So I think it was his own fault. But in any case, he obviously played sore after that. He's been for scans and it looks like he's all okay. But it was 44 points, 50, almost 60 minutes.
We had an HIA before that.
Yeah.
So he goes off in the 5 minute mark for an HIA. Then he comes on, and then Victor gets knocked out. So he moves, and Turpin's playing hooker, so Smith moves to lock. So he's out of position that he's been training at all pre-season. There's lots of excuses, I think, in there. So I'm quite happy to hold him.
Yeah, still 44 points in a well-beaten team, so I'll definitely hold. Same with Egan Butcher. This one's a bit tougher, but you take out his 14 in negative points, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And he gets 50.
In
I
base?
think that's
50 in base?
50 in base. I think that's pretty solid. So he's staying for me. But there are some guys who I like at that price range. If Josh King goes well this week, I could get on him. If I didn't own Jackson Ford, I'd potentially go to him. And Tohu Harris is calling me as well.
I looked at rage trading Butcher out to King, I've got to admit. But then I sort of once I'd calmed down and had a look... Yeah. 50 in 70 minutes, all in base. There's a reason we went Egan Butcher, and that's because he will work, and he was doing all that without the ball. And you make a lot more points, or you've got a higher chance of making sort of explosive points with the ball than you do without it. So, let's wait and see.
Khan Pereira, I've got on the hold list. It's all about attacking stats with him, and hopefully he gets them this weekend against the Dragons. Tedesco and Nathan Cleary, 600 people are selling those guys. Just don't do it.
It's crazy.
Would you double down on Teddy as captain this week? By double down, I mean I would double down because I picked him as captain last week.
I'm planning on it. I think Joey Manu, the addition of Joey Manu is huge for Teddy. Joey's really good at sticking his nose through and finding an offload, and Teddy's really good at being that guy following up for the offload. So I can see a Manu to Teddy or Teddy to Manu, a double.
Moving on to the sells, Luke Garner. So, Kickout's replacement at the Panthers, but got pulled by the coach 51 minutes, which is less than what he was playing, a lot less than what he was playing at the Tigers. The coach blasted him in the press conference as well.
Jeez, I thought
if I owned him, I'd be tempted to sell this week.
Mate, if I owned him, I would play him because Ivan Cleary threw him under the bus. The entire Penrith forward pack got outplayed. And he's like, Garner doesn't understand the intensity at which we play. I mean, they got smashed at home by a team who weren't travelling all that great coming into the season. And it's like it's a new recruit's edge second row forward that's his fault. No, it's like the entire Penrith team and Ivan takes all the blame and sticks it on this guy. No, I reckon it was a mistake. I think Garner stands up, shows, for redheads all over the world that he can play at a high level and scores a couple of tries against the Rabbitohs.
I got Franklin Pele next on the sell list, but we've been through him. Matt Burton is a really interesting one. So 5'8", lots of action happening there with Munster getting sold and Matt Burton getting sold. Now, they looked really clunky, particularly on that side. The whole team looked clunky, but particularly on the left with the Burton kick-out combination. It's a new combo. Looks like it's going to take a while to gel, and they've got a really tough matchup against the Storm this weekend. So with good buys in that position like Dewey and to a lesser extent Ponga, I'd be tempted to sell Burton this week.
I hate round one trades, but that's one I could make. Yeah.
Or even Katoa, if you didn't get on Isaiah Katoa to start the season. Tommy Talau, so struggled with injury. We think cramped for basically the entire game and only got 19 points. I avoided him from the start because I didn't want a borderline sort of cheapy mid-ranger, 300K, playing for a poor attacking team. So I avoided him, and I think, look, if you've got him in your team and you don't own one of the gun cheapies, I'd be tempted to sell.
Yeah, I mean, he still made 9 runs, but he was the only Tigers backline player not to run for over 100, and some of the others ran for 150 plus. In a game where every one of your teammates is filling their boots, he just absolutely went missing. I'd at least give him a week to see. Maybe he was crook. Maybe he had the flu. You know, you never really know after one game. So I think if you can, you wait. But it was pretty poor.
Let's take some questions. Michael Tobin is asking, Egan Butcher, no charge. So
he was charged. He gets a fine.
He got a fine, yeah. So he's free to play this weekend. Yeah. Is Alex Twal worth a look?
No, he's been benched, I believe, for Off and Galway this week.
There's just no upside with him. It's all base.
It's all base. He's got to play big minutes.
Sangster's team should be called Dipsy's Paradise, looking like a green Teletubby today.
I like that. I like that. Did they know that the green Teletubby is Dipsy off the top of their head, or exactly. That's impressive.
That's a parent. That's a dad coming in with that. Any info on Brandon Smith's rib injury? No, but he has been named, so I'm assuming he's going to.
And he trained. He just wore headgear, but that was for the bleeding as opposed to concussions. As NRL physio has said on more than one occasion, headgear doesn't save you from concussion.
Captaincy option this week. That's from Dylan.
Teddy.
I'm really thinking Teddy as well. It's at Allianz. It's a day game, 3 p.m, up against the Warriors. I think he could go nuts. I think the Roosters will bounce back. So he's my captain this week. But I am tempted,
the Roosters to be worse.
I am tempted by the safe captaincy option on Hopgood, it must be said. Let's run through all of the teams. We're just going to pick out a player to watch in every game. Panthers v the Rabbitohs. Taruva, I was pretty happy with. The work rate looked good, and he looks like an absolute... he looks so tough to tackle. He's going to bust a lot of tackles this year. I think he's going to get a lot of attacking stats. Didn't have many opportunities on the weekend, but I think he will be one of the cheapest of the year.
Luke Garner for me. He's going to score a try and do a celebration pointing at Ivan in the box and suggest he gets on the bus.
Brian 2-0. One of the more sold players this week, but scored 40 odd in base. I don't think he'd be selling 2-0.
He's on the right though, and Stephen Crichton doesn't like to pass. Stephen Crichton likes to run and score and intercept and make bad defensive reads. So that's a problem for Toby.
Fullback though. Moving on to the Rabbitohs. Who are you liking here? Cameron Murray.
Murray was very good. Damien Cook was very good.
Damien Cook very good. Isaac Thompson is an interesting one because he made some really bad errors. He dropped the ball over the line, a couple of errors coming out of his own end, but he also busted a bunch of tackles as well, and has been named ahead of Tane Milne, who's back from suspension this week. So could be an option for next week if he backs it up.
Campbell Graham is not a serial killer.
Yes, true. And 110 or so points or whatever it was on the weekend.
2 tries, not bad for a bloke who scored like 6 last year total.
Can he keep it up though?
No.
Is he an option?
No.
Moving on to the Eels. Who are you liking here? I mean, we've spoken about a lot in Carty.
Well, I'll throw in Junior Paulo because he was the first person to score 100 this season. But he made something like 19 runs. That's not Junior's go. There was something strange happening in that game, right? I watched it and enjoyed it, and I didn't even drink that many beers, but I just can't remember why the base stats on so many players were so high. The ref didn't blow the whistle a lot. He just let them run, and therefore there were lots of hit-ups. So I want to go back and maybe have a look at the match stats to get a better picture, but the base stats on a lot of players were very high.
I feel like it wasn't just that game. It was particularly prevalent in that game, but it wasn't. It was all weekend where there are lots of base stats for the forwards. So maybe it's a bit of a change, a bit of a follow-on from V'landys ball a couple of seasons ago.
Maybe PVL has him in his SuperCoach team and the instructions went out.
I don't think PVL bothers with SuperCoach. He's got bigger things to worry about.
Yeah, he's like telling clubs who they're allowed to have as a coach if they want to come into the competition.
Yes. Sharkies, Sione Katoa was really good and a lot went to the right. Trindle was sensational, but he's probably not in the team next week with Nico Hines back. But no Nico Hines this week.
Teague Wilton, 50-something in base. I thought really impressive.
Yeah, 80 minutes, and he got that try with... It was just a try, so no line breaks or anything because it was off a kick. But yeah, looked pretty good.
No Wade Graham there to poach his minutes.
Yep, that's true. Moving on to the Broncos v the Cowboys. I own Payne Haas, and I was particularly happy. Lots of tackle busts, lots of meters. He looked really good against what is a really good pack in the Panthers.
Patrick Carrigan was outstanding.
Yes,
I didn't think he was maybe... I thought at 650 or something, he was a bit of a gamble, but not if he keeps playing like that.
Moving on to the Cowboys, probably weren't as impressive as we were hoping, but still pretty good. Val Holmes got 60-odd points with a try assist thrown in there as well. Up against the Broncos this week, who are coming off a good win, and then they've got their incredible, easy run of games coming after this.
Tom Dearden was a funny one. To me, he looked amazing in the first half and had no points. Like, he just kept running it and going for it. And Scott Drinkwater, who, was it 2 tries? 1 try? 2 tries.
Yeah, didn't get
60 points.
Didn't get many points, yeah. Reuben Cotter was sensational too, so I'd be pretty happy.
I was very happy as a Cotter owner. Yep.
Roosters v the Warriors. I think Tedesco's going to go nuts. Sam Walker was one of the better players against the Dolphins. Got some decent points and could be backing it up this week.
Did a lot of good stuff, did a lot of bad stuff. But that's okay. His forwards...
We don't care about the bad stuff for Supercoach, really.
His forwards would have blamed there. The forwards were really bad and kept dropping the ball. As soon as, Lindsay Collins and Lodge went off, they got bossed around the field. I'm hoping that, that sends a message to May and White. If you want to hold your job when Leniu comes to the club, you've got to step up. Victor Radley, shocked to see him named. I was really surprised.
At the Warriors, so we've spoken about a lot here in Willie Army, Ford, Tohu Harris. I think they're all good buys. Charles Nickel-Klokstad was very good. His work rate was sensational. Looks like we're going to get basically 20 runs per game from him, plus the associated tackle busts, plus offloads, etc. And that's just his base. And then any attack on top of that is a bonus.
3 or 4 years ago, he was one of the best fullbacks in the competition. And then, Ricky decided he wasn't a fullback or a good fullback anymore and sort of mucked him around. I'm really glad to see him back at fullback. I think his work rate's elite. His big body, his try-saving tackle was really, really good. I can't remember who it was on, but it was superb, one-on-one. Yeah, he's a gun.
At the Dolphins v Raiders, so we've spoken about a lot of Dolphins. Hamaso and Zarko are very popular. Isaiah Katoa, what I liked about him was that he scored with his passing and with his kicking as well. A whole bunch of forced dropouts. Plus he got a try assist in there as well, line break assist, a try contribution too. So he had a lot to do and certainly didn't look out of place. It was in his NRL debut. Looked like he'd been there for quite a while. Marshall
King is the guy I want to throw out. So I thought Marshall King was awesome. Not the first time he's ripped the Roosters apart straight through the middle, much to my chagrin. But I thought he was great.
At the Raiders, Pasami Saulo, 42 points in 33 minutes. So that's serious PPM, mostly in base as well. No Papali'i this week. He's out again with that calf injury. So we should be looking at a similar score this week. But then from there, look, who knows? Probably back to the bench, probably back to 15 minutes.
Who knows? I'd like to see Junior Paulo come into the team. And, if that, Papali'i, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
And then Tapane go to 13 and if Saulo kept his spot, then he becomes a cheapie we all pick up in round 3.
Yep.
That's just fantasy.
Surely he goes back to the bench and someone like Mariota drops it.
Far more likely, yeah.
Storm v the Doggies. Look, we have touched on William Warbrick, and didn't get many attacking stats. But what I liked was 16 runs.
Yep.
He's a tackle buster. He didn't get many on the weekend, but I think he could be a play on a lot of weeks, particularly up against the Bulldogs at Amy Park this weekend.
Yeah, and I suppose the other is Nick Meaney, who was really, really good. It's an awkward price, though. So, would I be rushing in to get him? No, but for those who got him as their premium centre wing, well played.
Trent Liero and Eli Katoa, both really popular mid-rangers in the back row. Both got 80 minutes, and the problem is we don't know whether they'll be playing 80 minutes each week, given how many injuries and concussions. The minutes were completely off at the Storm. I still think that Liero's probably going to play 80 each week. And and if he does this week, then he could be an option for me. If Butcher fails, then Butcher to Liero could be a trade.
I think Katoa's got more attack in his game.
Definitely.
But Liero's, he's just that working, defending second rower. Didn't miss a lot of tackles and made a lot of tackles that that they seem to like at the Storm, and at a really good price.
Moving on to the Dogs, Hayes Perham is a popular sell. I don't think people should have gone there in the first place at 380k, so I can get around people selling him.
Alamotti didn't do much, but what he did okay, right? And so that's really what you want at 200k.
Look,
he was right.
He's going to be a slow burn. It's not like he's going to drop out of that team anytime soon. He's got good job security. I think you've just got to stick with him and hope he gets some tries down the track.
A bit like a Tolu Kula, who took a bit of time and then really found his feet, scored a try, and quickly added 200k.
Yep, I feel like he's a Will Penasini style of player as well. West Tigers v the Knights. At the Tigers, it's all about Adam Dewey this week. Stefano stood out for me in that he played 50 minutes, only 38 points. His PPM has been really good in the past. I'm expecting his PPM to improve this weekend.
Brent Naden for me, a guy I just like. I don't know why,
but so you can pull out your Brent Naden joke?
No. I've done that enough. No, I just like him. I like the way he plays. I like the sort of attitude you seem to see from him on the field. He's a guy I wish we had at the Roosters. He's a Uncle Nick, if you're listening, reach out.
Get him in. At the Knights, it's all about Ponga. The guy who stands out for me, though, is Lachlan Miller. So if this guy was at most other clubs, he would be an absolute Supercoach weapon. His dual position, 23 runs with 6 tackle busts, 52 points. You add some big attacking stats into that, and he's an absolute Supercoach gun, particularly with that dual positioning. So if the Knights do improve, Lachlan Miller at CTW could be an option at some stage, particularly when they have their during the buy season.
A few more 50s is what we want to get his price down to 500k, and then I'm all in. Dragons
v the Titans.
Nothing to see here. Move on.
Blockbuster game at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium. Murdoch Masila has been named to start, so I thought he might drop to the bench with Jack Bird back, but Bird goes to lock, not to the edge.
Yeah, but that's DeBellin's not back there, is he? So, DeBellin can come back in and go to 13. I assume he probably does.
Yeah, he's got a calf injury, DeBellin.
Yeah, and Bird could slide. I'm not saying Murdoch Masila is, if I had him, I'd keep him, maybe play him, I don't know. But I'm not too upset that I missed him.
Then at the Titans, Tanner Boyd. I played in my 17, only got 35 points. The issue was that Fafita moved to the other side of the field. I was hoping that Tanner Boyd would be passing it to David Fafita. It didn't happen. It was Kieran Foran passing it to Fafita and to Sammy. There were a lot of tries down that side of the field, a lot of attacking stats. Thankfully, Fafita got some, but all the tries went to Philip Sammy and not to our man, Khan Pereira.
Yeah, disappointing. I'd throw in a couple of things. Fafita has signed his contract, so we can all expect the effort to slow down. Big Tino. I had a fair few people asking in the blog, should I be selling Tino? And I'm like, well, look, the thing is, Tino's minutes, bang on average. Number of runs, bang on average. Number of tackles, a little under, but that's because he missed 7. 0 attacking stats, 0 power stats. Those will come. You pick Tino for a reason. Just as long as he keeps making that number of runs, he's going to throw some offloads, bust some lines, bust a lot of tackles. Just chill.
A couple of questions till the end of the show. Nick's asking, thoughts on Nia Kore? So I was expecting him to play 80, to be honest, and then it was Ford who played 80 and Nia Kore got 60-odd. It might be reversed this week, who knows?
I think the Warriors' rotation was awkward. I'd wait and see another week on all of them.
Is Nanai a trade? That's from Liam. I wouldn't. With their great run, it's a relatively tough matchup against the Broncos at Suncorp this weekend, but it really does open up for them.
Nanai was an absolute gamble in the first place because you were buying a bloke who's not a worker and scored a ridiculous number of tries. 17 tries or something last year? You need that number of tries for it to be worthwhile, but as you say, the draw is kind and suggests they'll get them. Look, you took the gamble. You might as well let it ride.
Sell Talakai. That's from Dan.
Never sell Seif.
You love him. Except you don't have him in your team this week. Walsh, a sneaky pod. Reece Walsh.
Not first game up.
You
Why
need
rush?
To have a look. Yeah, you need to have a look this week. Thoughts on Kikau? A lot of people are selling this week.
I thought he was bad.
Yeah.
I thought he was just bad. It
Look,
just looked bad.
Didn't look interested, to be honest. We'll take one more. Rob your head. Oh, no, no, no.
Go on,
Your
be nasty.
head. It starts with Rob your head. Looks like a half-sucked mango.
Half-sucked mango. Oh, I've had worse.
We won't finish there. We'll go with Katoa or Murdoch Masilla for last reserve spot.
Which
Remember-
Katoa?
Katoa.
Oh,
I wouldn't play Jose. He's not a top 17 player for me. He's a moneymaker.
BMM.
Right, well, that's it. Teams podcast. Big thanks to Rob. Good luck picking your teams this week, and we'll catch you for the Game Day podcast, 11 a.m. on Thursday. See you then.
How exciting.